Welcome to all in your own channel NCERT teaching. I am Dr. Kailash Mina and today I am going to discuss about chapter number 7 of class 8 science, which is conservation of plants and animals. And you can see one picture in this slide of my presentation, which is taken as it is from NCERT, which shows some plant and animal diversity of any area. So this is that is why I took this picture for the starting slide of my presentation. So here you can understand by this picture and by this name also, conservation of plants and animals means this type of animals need to be protected. Conservation means to protect, and plants also need to be protected. So why we need to protect them? How many types of plants and animals we need to protect, and if we need to protect, how we can protect, what are the consequences and other implications of this whole picture of plants and animals and their protection. Let's start our chapter. So these are some points which we are going to discuss in our presentation. You can see deforestation and its causes. If you are aware about the word forest means many type of wild trees which grow spontaneously in wide area. So D means removing or absent. So deforestation simply means removal of trees or cutting of trees for any reason. So deforestation and its causes. Consequences of deforestation, again a related headline: conservation of forest and wildlife. Biosphere reserve, these are some large areas where we protect wildlife and plants. Flora and fauna, these are two terms which we are going to learn. Flora simply means plants, fauna means animals of particular geographical area. So if we are talking about plants of Jamnagar, plants of Gujarat, plants of Rajasthan, or all plants of Haryana, then it is called as flora of Haryana, and all animals of Haryana, fauna of Haryana. All animals of Jamnagar, fauna of Jamnagar, flora of Jamnagar, all plants of Jamnagar. So for a particular geographical area, if we are talking about all plants, it is called flora, and if we are talking about all animals, it is called fauna. Endemic species, we will learn what do we mean by endemic species. There are some plants and animals, there are some species which are restricted or limited to particular geographical area. These species are called endemic species. Then wildlife sanctuaries and national parks, I am sure that you have heard these words before. We will discuss this. These are for protection of wildlife and plants. Red data book, red means danger. So where we see red signs, most of the signs are of danger. So red data book means any book, a book which have red data or the information which is alarming. Okay. Why it is alarming, we will learn. Migration, I am sure you have heard this word before. Migration is movement from one place to other. If you are shifting home for any reason from one state to another state, that is also called migration. Sometimes you have heard this word. We will talk or we will use this word for some migratory birds. Recycling of paper. Now you will wonder, okay, when we are talking about forest, plants, animals and wildlife, where this paper came into, why this paper came into the picture? Because paper is a product of forest. So maybe making of paper involves cutting of trees, many trees. We don't know the exact data, but yes, it involves cutting of trees. So recycling of paper is also connected with wildlife conservation. Then reforestation, the solution for deforestation, the first point and the 12th point. So let's start discussing these topics. First thing, deforestation. So as the name indicates, simply we can understand, if we remove trees, if we cut trees for any reason, why we want to cut trees? Okay, so first thing is, why, what are the causes of deforestation? Let's see. Very simply we can understand: procuring land for cultivation, building houses and factories, using wood as fuel for making furniture. Very simple reason. Why we want to cut trees? maybe we want that area to be cleaned, that is why we are cutting trees, or we want the products from those trees, that is why we can cut trees. There may be any, or we want any other construction in that area, that is why we can cut trees. So these are some reasons for cutting trees, and very easy to understand. Then consequences of deforestation, again if you see these pictures, one is forest fire, second is drought. Okay, first we see the pictures, then we will read the text. So what will be the consequence? So very simple, if we know the role of trees in our life. In class 6 science, 7 science, we have learned many direct and indirect benefits of trees. For example, in class 6 we have learned about food and its components. Food, most of the time food we get from plants and wildlife, and then when it comes to wood, gum, resin, silk, simple products again from plants. When it comes to fibers, we have learnt about fibers in chapter number 3 of class 6 science and 8 science also. So when it comes to fibers, we also depend on wildlife and plants or trees. Again, trees are also home for many animals. So if we cut trees, we are indirectly removing or destructing their habitat or their places to live. So ultimately it is going to destroy wildlife also. Then we learnt about breathing and circulation in class 7 science. So we know we need oxygen for breathing, and we inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. This is the fact we all know. Inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. So if there is if we manage it, okay, hypothetically, if we manage oxygen by oxygen cylinders, then what will happen to the released carbon dioxide? Because if you keep going releasing carbon dioxide in the environment, so there will be a huge accumulation of carbon dioxide in the environment, and that will lead to global warming. Okay, we will learn how carbon dioxide is responsible for global warming, and there will be many more effects. So plants are also needed to suck up this carbon dioxide or to consume this carbon dioxide. So actually they are balancing the oxygen and carbon dioxide cycle. So these are some consequences you can read. Okay, I will highlight these. So increase in the temperature and pollution level of the earth, we can easily understand because of the carbon dioxide. Increase in the level of CO2, carbon dioxide, leading to global warming. Lowering the groundwater level, because plants are also maintaining water cycle. The roots are also holding the topsoil. Okay, so there are some direct involvements of plants and there are some indirect involvement of plants. By applying some logic, we can easily understand. Disturb the balance of nature, this thing we have discussed. Decreases rainfall leading to a drought. Why they decrease rainfall? Because they keep moisture in the environment. If there are so many trees, if you have visited some national park or simple park or garden, you can feel the difference. A building or construction, if you go to cinema hall or any other amusement park where there are no trees, and if you go in any garden or any natural place where there are many more trees, you can feel the difference in the coolness of the environment and the moisture. You can feel the presence of moisture. So actually plants are holding moisture and they are creating circumstances for rain. Soil erosion and decrease in soil fertility, easily we can understand, because their roots are holding tight the topsoil. So if there will be no trees, any event can erode the topsoil. Then decrease in the water holding capacity of the soil leading to the floods. Why soil have water holding capacity? Because of presence of trees, because of humus. So if we remove the trees, we will remove all the interactions also simultaneously. It leads to change in soil properties, because the soil which have some properties which are good for us and which are good for growth of plant. So actually plants and animals, and this environment, actually every living organism is interacting consistently with its living environment and with its non-living environment. Okay, so if this is a creature and if it is the environment, either we are aware or we are not aware, but we are exchanging something with this environment. Okay, so we humans or any other creature, plant, animal, or even non-living environment, so we are interacting with some plants, we are interacting with some animals, we are interacting with air, we are interacting with soil, and we are interacting with water. So we are not isolated, we are interconnected. So these interactions, we study these interactions in a branch of biology which is called ecology, and the system which we get because of these interactions, okay, very complex interactions are there. Because see, you can, something you can understand in this class at level, that we are dependent on food, on plants and animals. We are dependent on we are dependent for oxygen for plants. Plants are dependent for carbon dioxide for us, and we plants and animals are dependent on microorganisms in the soil for nitrogen requirement, and plants are also dependent on the groundwater and minerals for the soil, and we need those minerals, so we eat plants, okay. And then when we both plants and animals die, again those minerals goes into the soil, and then some gases release which goes into the air, okay, we breathe because of air. So minutely if you observe the interaction, we all are connected by some points. So this complex system is called ecosystem, okay. We will learn more about ecosystem, although it will be a very brief introduction for you. So if when it comes to wildlife, when it comes to plants, why removing plants or killing the animals is very dangerous? Because of these interactions also, okay. And final thing is nutrient content texture also changes because of deforestation. So these are some effects of deforestation you can easily understand, and the solution will be reforestation, okay. Again, if deforestation means removing of trees, and reforestation will be planting of trees. We will talk about this topic in the last slide of the presentation. Now conservation of forest and wildlife. Now we have understood some point, okay, why do we need to conserve forest and why do we need to conserve wildlife? Because we are getting many things from wildlife, directly and indirectly. There are some essential goods we are getting from wildlife. There are some precious but not essential things we are also getting from wildlife, and there are some interactions which are essential for maintaining this ecosystem, for this biosphere, okay. We are able to see this biosphere not because of humans, because of all animals and plants and their interactions, okay. So you can see some pictures here, very beautiful pictures, and I am sure many of you have visited some type of national park or wildlife sanctuaries. I am sure that you have heard these terms before, national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Actually, I am living in Jamnagar now in Gujarat. So if my students, my class 8 students, if they are watching this video of Kendriya Vidyalaya also, no? So they can, if they have heard about Narara and Pirotan, these are some special sanctuaries and national parks which are called marine national parks or marine sanctuaries. So actually there are some places in Jamnagar which have very huge diversity of sea creatures or marine animals and plants. So yes, so that is why they are referred to and sanctuaries and national parks. So if you next time if you visit to Pirotan, if you visit to Narara, and if you get some guide for that, otherwise if you go simply there, you will not able to appreciate and see the diversity. But if there is any guide available, that the guide will show you how many different plants and animals are available there. Many of the plants and animals you don't know, but you are going to learn in class 11th and 9th in the chapter diversity if you are interested, okay. So that is a different point. So here let me read this text, very simple to understand, okay. Forest and wildlife can be conserved by setting up some areas like biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. So what we do, if we want to conserve forest, if we want to conserve wildlife, you cannot protect them separately, okay. I am going to separate today I am going to protect plants, today I am going, next day I will protect animals, next day I will protect birds, next day I will protect forest. No, if we protect some area which have a great diversity of plants, okay, and animals and birds and everything, so we are actually indirectly protecting everything. So these areas, depending on their how large they are and who is controlling them, who is regulating the state government or central government, there are some technicalities are there. So accordingly they are referred as biosphere reserve, national park and wildlife sanctuaries. And Panchmari biosphere reserve is also mentioned in our textbook, okay. So let's learn about them. Biosphere reserves, national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So okay, in our NCERT you will see this map also of Panchmari biosphere reserve, and very interesting. That is why I have taken this table as it is, and also the number, say table 7.1, because chapter number 7 is there. Very good table for us, very good activity for us students. If you are able to complete this chapter, you must complete this table. very engaging activity. Okay, so your district, state and country, for example our country is India, our state is, now I am living in Gujarat, so it is Gujarat. Otherwise if you live in Rajasthan or Haryana, it will be Rajasthan, Haryana or Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra, any state. Okay, then your district, for example I am living in Jamnagar district of Gujarat state, previously I was living in Jaipur district of Rajasthan, okay, or Bikaner district of Rajasthan. So you can list out by taking help of internet. Today internet is a very good source of information. It depends on how we use that information. So if you complete this activity now, you not only you will come to know about wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves and national parks of your district, of your state, you will be surprised to know that okay, in this district in which you are living, how many visiting places are there. So if you visit those places now, you will come you will see the aesthetic value, as well as you will see rare and very diverse plants and animals there, and that will also help if you take some pictures and photographs also, that will also help you in your higher studies. If you opt for biology in class 11th and also in class 9th and 10th science also, when you learn about biodiversity and bioclassification. Okay, so this activity I insist you all students, you must complete, or you try to complete it. Okay, not if you not able to complete this table fully, so at least you try, and you ask somebody in your district. You can ask also, okay, how many national parks and sanctuaries are there, and what are the names of the sanctuaries and national parks, and what is the location, can you visit or not. Okay, so again, what are biosphere reserves? See, biosphere reserves are large areas of protected land for conservation of wildlife, okay, plant and animal resources and traditional life of the tribes living this area. Okay, so this also include tribes. Okay, so in a very if you know about tribal people or tribes are those people which lives in forest, and they opt to live traditionally. So they are following lifestyle of very old, and that is very good also for environmental point of view, and they are so deeply engaged and dependent on plants and animals, and then wildlife we are talking about, that we cannot separate them. So if we need to conserve those people also. Because of those people, now we have this plant and animal biodiversity, because the in urban areas, the lifestyle we are having right now is actually against our natural resources, or against our plant biodiversity and animal biodiversity. So those people need to be protected also. So biosphere reserves not only includes animals and plants, but also tribes. Then national parks, areas reserved for wildlife where they can freely use their habitats and natural resources. Again, protected land. Wildlife sanctuaries, areas where animals are protected from any disturbance. So at class 8 level, you can see the differences. Here only we are talking about animals, here we are talking about again wildlife and other resources, and here we are talking about plant, animal and traditional life. So biosphere reserve will be very large area. Actually, national park and wildlife sanctuary, you will see less national parks in your area and more wildlife sanctuaries, because national parks are controlled by or regulated by central government, and wildlife sanctuaries are regulated by state government, and many times some important wildlife sanctuaries are also converted in national parks. Okay, for example Sariska in Rajasthan, okay, or Ranthambore. There are so many if you can learn about Rajasthan, there are so many sanctuaries and national parks in Rajasthan, and they are famous for, sometimes they are famous for lion, sometimes they are famous for tiger or crocodile or some birds. Okay, Kevla Dev is also there in Bharatpur, which is famous for birds. And if you are in Gujarat, I am sure that you have heard about Gir. Okay, Gir in the nearby area of Junagadh or Gujarat. Okay, so Gir is also famous for the Asian lion. So when you will search, you will learn very interesting facts, and that will be very engaging for you, and you can visit, you can plan your visit there, and many of you have already visited. Next slide, importance of biosphere reserve. So I don't think I need to elaborate this thing, because if you are aware about the benefits of plants and animals, benefits not only in terms of money, in terms of product we get, there are so many indirect benefits and aesthetic value also, and ethical values also. So there are lot of importance of biosphere reserve. Okay, there is no question about that. So we can read also this text. The biosphere reserves help to maintain the biodiversity and culture of that area. Culture, because we are protecting tribes also. A biosphere reserve may also contain other protected areas. For example, Panchmadi Biosphere Reserve consists of national park named Satpura and 2 wildlife sanctuaries, Bori and Panchmadi. So, this is because this is mentioned in our NCERT, there may be some questions from this biosphere reserve. So, here you can see biosphere reserve is large, okay, larger than national park and sanctuaries. Here you can see in one biosphere reserve we are able to see one national park, which is Satpura, and 2 wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, as I was mentioning that you will see less national parks and more wildlife sanctuaries. So, in one biosphere reserve Panchmari we have one national park and 2 sanctuaries. Then one more thing, flora and fauna. Okay, flora and fauna. Flora will remind you flower. Okay, although the spelling is different, but it will remind you. So, this is the way you can remember that flora is about plants and fauna is about animals. Very simple to understand. For any particular geographical area, complete diversity of plants is called flora and complete diversity of animals is called fauna. For example, if I talk about Savai Madhopur, so the all plants we find in Savai Madhopur is called its flora, and the all plants all animals we find in Savai Madhopur are called fauna. If I talk about Jamnagar, so the plant diversity of Jamnagar is called flora of Jamnagar, and the animal diversity of Jamnagar is called fauna of Jamnagar. Actually, flora, there are big books actually. We catalog them. Okay, there are some researchers who do this work. It's a huge work, so many people collaborate in them. So, for example, Rajasthan, so there are, or Gujarat, so there are so many varieties of plants and animals in Gujarat and Rajasthan, we are not able to count. So, people try to do some effort, they combine the data, they compile the work, and they make big books or big catalogs, okay, for any state or for any district. So, it will be a good source of information for research purpose. So, flora of Rajasthan will be a big book which try to incorporate the plant diversity or all plants available in Rajasthan. Okay, so very simple. Or you can see some images of flora of some areas. Okay, then I will show some fauna also. Let's see this. See, this is how you can see some animal diversity of some areas. So, this is what we call flora and fauna. One more thing, I have included the same image figure 7.2 from our NCERT, which was the opening picture for my presentation. See this image. So, in our NCERT this image is mentioned. Okay, never forget your NCERT, adhere to your NCERT or stick to your NCERT, follow your NCERT. So, when you are confused, when you see any topic is overwhelming, or if you see any topic overwhelming for you or difficult for you, you go for NCERT, because you cannot deeply research or study every topic in class 8 level. So, whenever you are in doubt whether you are in class 10th, whether you are in class 8th, or whether you are in class 7th, any class, then what is the limit of any topic which you need to read or you need to study, follow your NCERT. Because when you go for studying from videos in YouTube, or you search on Google and you refer other reference books, there will be a lot of information, because you will see in upcoming classes what you have learned from 6th to 8th science will be repeated in 9th and 10th science, and what we will learn in 9th and 10th science again going to repeat in 11th and 12th science stream, if you are opting science stream. So, every time the same information there, but in different forms. Okay, there will be increasing difficulty and increasing information. So, sometimes we are confused with the overwhelming content. So, always refer to your NCERT and try to memorize their examples, try to refer their pictures, tables or activities, and then if there are some examples in your NCERT which you are not able to understand, then search for pictures. For if we are talking about diversity, it is very good to search on Google Images, but carefully, okay, by taking only the examples of your NCERT. So, again the same NCERT picture about flora and fauna. How we know what do we know of flora? Plants found in a particular geographical area, animals found in a particular geographical area. These are some examples from our NCERT, you can see. Now, endemic species. Okay, so what do we mean by endemic species? If you are aware that you will find camels in desert, penguins in polar area, kangaroo in Australia. Okay, so there are very oversimplified examples. There are so many more species of plants and animals. So, those plants and animals which we find only a particular geographical area, very limited. So, you will not find yak in Rajasthan, and you will not find camel in Himachal Pradesh or hilly areas. Why? Because there are certain conditions which are necessary for those animals and plants. So in the across the globe or in our planet Earth or biosphere, if you have particular geographical area which are very limited, which have very special conditions, so those geographical areas will have certain type of plants and animals. And if we are not able to find those plants and animals anywhere, those plants and animals are called, students, endemic species. So what do you mean by endemic? Limited. Okay, so we can read the text also. You first see the pictures. Bison. Many of you are not aware. If you are not aware about bison, bison is nothing but a cow like animal, but in those colder areas, so it have many hairs. Indian giant squirrel and flying squirrel. Okay, then now let's try to read the text. So what do we mean endemic? These are those species of plants and animals which are found only in particular area and not naturally found anywhere. Why do we mean naturally? So nowadays there is so much advancement in technology, so much advancement in transport, so much advancement in facilities. So okay, we can shift some animals and some plants and we can recreate those conditions, but it will be very costly for us, and if we are not able to maintain those conditions, it will be painful for that animal or plant also. I have seen many rare plants and animals in other areas also, but if there is lack of awareness, there is lack of facility, we will lose those plants and animals, plus it will be unethical to treat those creatures like this. Okay. So endemic means limited in a particular geographical area and we are not able to find them anywhere else naturally. Okay. And because see there is one hidden message also, because some species are endemic, so if we interfere with their home or with their habitat, you can see here what is it, there is a chance of endangered extinction of those species. What do you mean by extinction? Okay, let me, I will discuss this chapter, this topic next after this one presentation. Wildlife sanctuary. So now we know what do you mean by wildlife sanctuary. So only there is an activity, you can search for many wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, these are some areas, protected areas where we protect plants and animals, and you can see some plants and animals, the picture of some plants and animals. Okay, some animals, okay, only animals. So we have we try to preserve these animals, and there are some see, you will see many sanctuaries and national parks which are known only because of one species. Some sanctuaries famous for crocodile or ghadial, some are famous for rhino, some are famous for elephant. Okay, some are famous for tiger and lion. For example, Sariska in Rajasthan is famous for tiger, and Gir in Gujarat is famous for lion. Okay, so because again you know particular geographical area have some type of species. So in each geographical area we are going to protect that species which is naturally found there. Okay, then national parks. You know what do you mean by national park? Again, so national parks are area reserved for wildlife. They can freely use. Okay, their habitats and resources. Large and diverse. Okay, national park are large and diverse enough to protect the whole set of ecosystem. What do you mean a whole set of ecosystem? Not only those plants and not only tiger, but all the areas nearby, plus all the plants, all the birds, everything. Okay, national parks are larger than wildlife sanctuaries, and then biosphere reserve is more elaborate. Okay, so these are some examples we need to memorize. Okay, Project Tiger. What do you mean a Project Tiger? So for example, I was mentioning Savai Madhopur as Ranthambore and Sariska. So there are some wildlife sanctuaries or national parks which have started some project. For example, if one wildlife sanctuary have crocodiles or ghadial, many ghadials are there. So if they want to protect a ghadial, what they will do? First they will search how many creatures we have, how many animals we have, then how many males are there, how many females are there, is there any favorable condition for reproduction, or if it is not favorable, how can we try to facilitate them. Okay, what are the problems they are facing in rearing their children or rearing the hatching the eggs. Okay, so by studying these things we are able to breed crocodiles, we are able to protect their species. Again, if we are same we are doing for tiger, it will be called Project Tiger. Okay, so in Project Tiger we try to, because if we are not aware na, then these animals are These creatures have become so rare because you will not able to see anywhere if we are not aware. Okay, so we are able to see tigers, lions, and some rare species of plants and animals only in biosphere reserves or national parks and wildlife sanctuaries where people are aware, and in those places also they are not completely protected. Okay, so we need to start Project Tiger because of these situations. Okay, and these are some endangered species. Barasinga, wildlife buffalo. Okay, so the species which have specific requirements, the species which we are not seeing commonly, and the species which are beneficial for us, they are in a danger. What is the danger? So if this wildlife buffalo is not finding any place to live because of deforestation, because we have destroyed their places, and if there is any benefit of this animal, for example, if we want to use its skin for anything, any purpose, and if it is costly, so people will hunt for this animal. So this type of these type of regions you can easily understand, you can easily correlate how there will be a danger for any type of species. And if these type of situations going to continue after several years, we are not going to see these type of creatures. So if you are not able to see this Barasinga anymore, if buffalo anymore, then we will say okay, these species are extinct. Okay, let me discuss with some practical example. So I am sure you all are aware about this scene of Jurassic Park movie, which came into 90s, and then we have seen some reboot also, like the naming Jurassic World in this decade. So these movies actually picturize the existence of dinosaurs, and thanks to these movies, people and kids are aware about dinosaurs. Then there was creatures like dinosaurs, and they were very huge, and we know many characteristics or many features of dinosaurs because of these movies. But yes, they are extinct. Why they are extinct? There are so many reasons, there are so many theories, but a very oversimplified way, 65 million years ago there was a strike of one big meteorite on our planet Earth, and that time there were many dinosaurs. So because of the situations after this strike or after this collision, because of the gases or the dust or the temperature, anything, there may be a number of reasons, but this creature is no more in our planet Earth. So there were many species of dinosaurs. If you have seen these movies or documentaries, you will come to know. So this is an example we can understand that okay, and now if we are having some animals and plants, okay, so these are some images of animals and plants. Maybe they may be endangered, they may not be endangered, but there is a danger on every animal and plant of extinction. Okay, so these plants and animals which are facing some danger of being extinct. What do you mean by extinct? For example, dinosaur is extinct, so we are not seeing any dinosaur because there is not a single dinosaur left on this planet Earth at that time. So if there was no dinosaur, there was no reproduction. If there was no reproduction, there was no next generation. So we are not able to see dinosaurs. So they are simply extinct. So we are not going to see in future also, because why we are going to see future frogs, why we are going to see future lizards, why we are able to see future butterflies? Because we have butterflies nowadays, they are able to reproduce. We have tigers, but very few. So if we do not protect tigers, which are very few in number nowadays, so in future there will be no tigers. Okay, we will only mentioning tigers in books and movies. For example, nowadays we are mentioning dinosaurs in books and movies. So this is how, by taking the example of dinosaur, you can relate, you can understand what do we mean by extinction. So what is extinction? The complete removal of any species. And what do you mean by endangered? So any species which are living nowadays, but a very few in there are very few members, and there is a danger of extinction. Okay, so endangered animals are those animals whose number is diminishing to a level that they might face extinction. Dinosaurs have faced extinction already. For example, tiger is one of the many animals which are slowly diminishing. That is why we need Project Tiger in wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. To protect our tigers, our country government launched the Project Tiger. Now you can understand easily. Okay, and this dinosaur become extinct long time ago. I have mentioned already to make you understand the extinction. And red data book. Okay, we have some books, authentic data. So every year they revise their data. So we have some catalogs or books which have information that which species have extincted which species are in danger of extinction. And if some species were not endangered 2 years ago, but now if there are very few animals, or there are few plants of that species that is endangered now, so they keep revising their data. Okay, you know that the cobra snake or the tortoise is also endangered, cycas plant is also endangered, and interfere of these plants and animals which are endangered, where we will find information, we will find information in red data book. Okay, we will need to remember this name, red data book, the books or the document which have data or which have information about endangered species or rare species or extinct species. Okay, so because of this type of data, because of these type of efforts, we are able to know, okay, these species are endangered, and we can take some measures to protect them. And there are very punishable laws, okay, against the species. So if you keep turtle in your home, if you keep cobra in any laboratory, okay, so if you, one more thing, if you have visited biology laboratory in your school, I am sure that you have seen biology laboratory in your school at some point of time. So previously in those laboratories, we used to see many type of dead animals and plants showed for study purpose. Okay, but that purpose is also killing some animals. Okay, so if we have, for example, 50,000 biology laboratories in country, so we need to kill 50,000 octopus, 50,000 cobra, 50,000 lizards. Okay, so if any species is endangered, for example tortoise is endangered, and if you are killing 50,000 tortoise for keeping them in biology laboratories, that will be harmful for them. So because of those reasons, nowadays many biology or most of the biology laboratories do not have any type of dead creatures which are called specimens. Okay, we have shifted on Google Images, or we have shifted in some HD videos from National Geographic or Discovery Plus. Okay, so this is how you can see the change, or see the technology helping us. Okay, so because of urbanization and technology, we are losing our biodiversity, and by taking the help of technology, we can restore our biodiversity also, but we need to be mindful for using of those things. So as I was talking about ecosystem, that ecosystem is a system which is a product of interactions. Okay, let me read this text. An ecosystem consists of all plants, animals and microorganisms living in an area, along with the non-living components, as I said, climate, weather, soil, so climate, water, soil, river and deltas also. So living and non-living, all things interacting with each other makes ecosystem, and their interactions are called, the study of their interactions is called ecology. Okay, you will learn more about ecology in class 10 and in class 12th also, if you opt for biology. Next thing, migration. We all know there are some migratory birds, I am sure that you are aware, and the people who are living in Jamnagar and which have visited Volsura is a place where our school is there. So there is a, we see huge diversity of birds there. So some birds come internationally, okay, in a frequent period of time. So why migration is there? Very simple to understand. See, if any creature is at any place, and if the environmental conditions are not favorable, so it will shift to the place where environmental conditions are favorable. For example, if some birds are there in one place, there is very hot there, and they cannot tolerate that hotness or that summer, they will move from that place to those places which are colder. Again the opposite is, if some birds are feeling uncomfortable in very winter situations, so they will move from those places to another places which are not cold, or no, which are not colder, which are warmer. Because you know, if you have paid attention in your social science also and science also about the revolution and rotation of earth, and then we know because of that fact, okay, earth is revolving around the sun, you know, and because of the different situations of the earth, some parts of the earth are warmer, some part are cooler. Okay, there is a difference, one part is facing day, one part is facing night, some parts are experiencing winter, some parts are experiencing summer. So by taking advantage of this fact, some birds can migrate. It is very long flight, they take very long flights, and it is a matter of research also, how they take these long flights, how they know the directions, okay, how they utilize the magnetic field of the earth, or how they search for directions. So very interesting fact is there. And we humans also shift, but not that birds are not taking help of any type of technology, and they are going very long flights. But nowadays we also shift. Why we shift from one area to another area? Because of some more opportunities. So if we are changing the job, our parents are changing the job, then we shift. Or if we have better better home, better facilities, then we shift. Or if we are facing some difficulties, then we shift. Okay, so same reason is true for birds and animals also. Why they migrate? Because they get better opportunities, better facilities in another place, or if they are feeling difficulty in the same place. Again, if we are interfere with the environment, if we interfere with the even sky activities, okay, then also we are disturbing these creatures. So even if we think that okay, there is no harm in space, if we are launching many spacecrafts or we are disturbing the environment, okay, everything is disturbing plants and animals. Because of those disturbance, even because of some waves also, these birds may get disturbed and they will not be able to find the directions. So I am sure you have read this text. Migration is the movement of animals from its own habitat to some another habitat for a particular time period every year due to climatic changes, or for what? For laying eggs, for reproduction, as the weather in their natural habitats become very cold and inhospitable. Okay, these birds are called migratory birds. Very easy to understand. Next thing, recycling of paper. As I have mentioned previously, okay, let's see the text also. About 17 full grown trees required to produce 1 ton of paper. Okay, for producing 1 ton of paper, we need to cut 17 trees. Okay, it's not about data, you can easily understand. Okay, if we are using paper, we are using the plants, so we need to recycle the paper. How we can? I am sure that we all are aware that we sometimes we donate our books, sometimes we sell our books to kabadi walas. Okay, sometimes what we do, okay, we must use paper mindfully. So if we are having new notebooks, we must use paper from both of the sides. Okay, we must use 3 R's which I have discussed in our previous video lectures. You can visit those video lectures by following the description link below, or by watching the playlist. When I have mentioned 4 R's, okay, reduce, reuse, recycle and restore. So same is applicable for paper also. First, reduce. We can reduce the use. How we can reduce the use? By using both the side of paper, or by using paper mindfully. Okay, some students I have seen in classes also, they throw their torn their notebooks, and the back side pages they waste their pages. So they must not waste page. Okay, so first thing, we must reduce the use of paper. Reduce, reuse. Okay, we can reuse sometime. So in our practical notebooks, we have some pages which are left. So we can in our previous year notebooks, if there are some pages left, we can use those pages for rough work or practice work. Reduce, reuse, recycle. How we can recycle? We can give to the kabadi wala the books for recycle, or if we are donating our books, and if we are using old books, not purchasing new all the time, so we are not only saving money, but also we are saving paper also, because every time if we sell old books to kabadi wala, that will go into the recycling process, and that process will be expensive for in terms of money also, and in terms of environment also, because every process will impact the environment. Okay, so I think you can understand this point very easily. You can read the text if you want. Okay, we must save paper, because paper we are not making only because of trees. There is some processing involved, there is some machinery involved, there is some money involved, there is some water involved. So we are also using some other natural resources for making paper. Okay, so in this presentation, we have talked about only the difficulties or the problems because of deforestation. So what is the solution? Solution is very simple: reforestation. And what do you mean by reforestation? Simply restocking the plants. It means planting of trees is called reforestation, and we have many activities in our schools. For example, in our Vidalya, in many government schools, we have one Mahotsav, and we have in one Mahotsav, what we do, we plant trees. Okay, so teachers and students plant trees all together, and we celebrate this as a festival. So every year we do this to increase the greenery. This is also a solution. And in schools we have many science exhibitions, science congresses. There we deliberately choose those topics which are related with conservation and which are related with wildlife and conservation of plants and planting of trees. And then we have many competitions, poster making competitions, okay, slogan making competitions, and we have many clubs also in our school, for example eco club and other green clubs. So because of these activities in many schools we are actually promoting reforestation, and we are making aware people for reforestation. So let's read the text. Reforestation is the restocking of destroyed forest by planting new trees. Very simple to understand. The planted trees should generally be of the same species which are found in the forest. Okay, otherwise if you are cutting very precious and rare trees, and what you are doing, if you are planting those trees which are not useful, which need not to be conserved at that point of time, that will be useless. Okay, we should plant at least as many trees as we cut. So if you cut mathematically, okay, if you cut 100 trees and if you plant only 10 trees, that is not going to solve the purpose. We must cut less and we must plant more. At least we can plant as much we are cutting, then also this problem can be solved. Okay, so if we have to regain our green wealth for future generation, plantation of more trees is the only option. In India we have Forest Conservation Act, which aimed at preservation and conservation of natural forest and basic needs of the people living in or near the forest. So we have some government rules and acts also for conservation of forest. And as always I included what you have learned, which you can see in your textbook also. In the end, very interesting points which summarize the whole chapter. So thank you so much for your patient listening. I am sure that I have made some sense and I made you aware, although I am very sure that you all students were already aware about these topics. Only this chapter or this presentation only what I can say, only gathered that information at one place, so that it can be formulated in the form of a chapter. So this is my presentation on this chapter number 7, conservation of plants and animals. In my next presentation I will try to cover chapter number 8 of class 8 science, which is cell structure and functions. Till then, take care and bye bye.